الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في حلقات كارير بودكاست. هنحاول نتعرف على بعض المهن، نقدر نعرف إيه أسرارها وعيوبها ومميزاتها، وده هيتم عن طريق سرد بعض السير الذاتية لضيوفنا اللي هيحكوا لنا بتفاصيل أكتر عن إيه هي التحديات اللي قابلتهم في أول طريقهم، وإيه هي التحديات اليومية اللي بيقابلوها، ولو نقدر نعرف منهم بعض النصايح للشباب اللي ممكن يكون مهتم بالمجال ده. وده هو أساسا هدفنا من حلقات البودكاست، إن الشباب الصغير اللي لسه بيحاول يحدد كارير معين يقدر يعرف من قبل ما يدخل بتفاصيل أكتر، مش من مجرد فكرة عامة عن مميزات وعيوب كل مهنة. ضيفنا النهاردة هو شغال في مجال الفاير سيفتي انجينيرينج، وهو مش عربي، فحلقتنا النهاردة هتكون باللغة الإنجليزية. Good evening. Our guest today has a very impressive career. He started his job when he was still in the high school, and now he is the head of fire safety engineering department in one of the leading offices of fire safety engineering in Italy. Good evening, Armando Voda. We are very happy to have you here between us, and we are very curious, also the audience, to know in details about your journey. But let's start by introducing yourself by yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, let's start by saying that I'm Armando, as you just said. I'm 29 years old.
A little bit young for all these success, yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, I actually started working when I was kind of young. So at 19 years old, I will almost celebrate the decade with his studio, at his engineering studio where I've been working for the last decade, as we said. And nothing. So the thing is, yeah, it's a very kind of tricky discipline, as you most probably could imagine by yourself. And the thing is, yeah, I first started studying civil engineering when I was 22 years old. And as you would recall, as American would recall, I'm a kind of dropout. And the thing is, I actually loved studying civil engineering, and I didn't stop studying because I actually didn't feel as if it was like my choice or as if it was perhaps too difficult, but simply because when we first started, our studio was keep growing, and so it was kind of required for me to kind of take a kind of serious place and to continue in any case the studying. So not overall studying of how would you say, a generic civil engineering application, but perhaps started to study in this kind of a field. The main difference, said in a most basic way, is that our work, literally, is designed around simulating fires. So we are not simply designing a building without actually taking into consideration how the smoke behaves, how the temperature behaves, how a structure is going to deform with the specific temperatures, or perhaps how people can escape in a kind of fire hazard zone. So with the smoke visibility condition that are going to be worse, or in any case. So we are trying to get into the details of this specific environment, and we are getting to study this phenomenon in a kind of more advanced way, let's say. So that's the main difference between a fire safety engineering studio or perhaps a standard fire safety project, which is just going to provide a kind of 2D plans and some kind of overall strategies that is not getting into the proper details of the fire.
Yes, as far as I know, fire safety engineering is considered as quite new approach that have been introduced recently to the fire protection design.
Yeah, the first proper application has been done in 2001 for the World Media Center study from the NIST, which is actually the developer of the software the software became open source
NIST is
software.
an American institute.
Yeah, it is an American institute, and it is the first one that has tried to say, listen, we have this kind of application which is used for environmental studies. We use for a completely different aspect at the beginning, which was another fluid dynamic application. And they said, okay, we can try to apply this kind of like a tool for fire, which is another fluid dynamic simulation. And nothing. So yeah, the 2001 has been the first real worldwide application for this kind of like software. And then it followed, and I think that the first one that we have seen in Europe, which nowadays is not Europe anymore, but has been London, I'm pretty sure. And then everyone like followed. In Italy, perhaps we started using it officially, and they started like approved a very kind of like a specific way to use this kind of engineering tool in 2015. It was used also before, but it became officially approved with a specific set of rules in 2015.
Well, let me make this point more clear. In the past, the standard used to allow the verification of fire resistance and evacuation plan only according to certain limits that couldn't be exceeded by any mean until what you just said, that NIST has introduced the fire safety engineering approach, which mainly based on building an interactive fire model, and the designer can use the output results to demonstrate and show the fire safety, the fire resistance, permissible values, and also the smoke management, and even it could be used for evacuation plan and indication about the time needed uh, for the evacuation. Am I right?
Yeah, the main topic is, I mean, in our case, the proper thing is that, as we said earlier, when I was studying in the university, which was 20, I think 18, so the beginning of the years where the fire standards started to become more popular in Italy. The thing is that this kind of market exploded for, and especially the need here in Italy, because we have plenty of historical buildings which are not going to follow the standards, because they are like literally century old kind of buildings, like castles, like very kind of tricky kind of like wooden structures. So they were not designed at the beginning of time with a kind of fire safety.
Like, for instance, the minimum width of a corridor that is going to be used during the evacuation is not respecting the limits of the standard.
You could also think about the doors, which
The
is
doors,
a very very simple example. We have a lot of historical buildings that have wooden doors with a lot of like, how would you recall, like arts over the decors, okay,
Yes.
which are wooden decors, and of course they are going to be beautiful, but they're not going to be. Of course, they are not meant with a fire safety designing project in mind. No, so you cannot come and say, listen, the standard is requiring a door, and so remove it, because we need to compartment the two
Yeah.
rooms one by each other. So this is a kind of basic example that we usually use, just to say that yes, here in Italy we have a lot of like example like this, and we have to say, listen, you can keep your beautiful wooden door. We're not going to touch it, and we're going to find another solution that is going to surround. And we're going to say, listen, okay, we're going to try to develop a fire, okay, a simulating fire, of course, and we're going to say, okay, let's see if it is going to be verified or not. It is not certified that it's going to be verified, but at least with this approach, you're not going, like, you're not specifically starting by saying, okay, we have to remove the door. You're going to say, okay, let's check what this door is going to, how it is going to behave in the case of a fire. Let's see if we can use any kind of like alternatives way. And this is actually why the reason why in Italy, in the standards, we are going to call this kind of solution an alternative solution rather than
Okay.
a conform like a solution.
Could you please give us some examples about these kind of alternative solutions?
Yeah, one of the example could be seen as in the standards, we have to provide a kind of smoke extraction amount. Like you have to follow a certain type of rules, let's say, you know. So it is divided by measures. Okay, so we're not going to get into the technical like sets of rules, but for instance, we're going to talk about the materials. We're going to talk about the fire resistance of the structures, or perhaps you can talk about how are you going to 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 fix, not to fix. How are you going to
Maintain.
yeah, how are you going to manage the smoke? Okay, how are you going to manage the smoke? Managing the smoke in a historical building could be seen as something very, very difficult because perhaps we had like a study in the Gallery Milan, the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, where it was required that we had to install a HVAC system, and of course we could not create a hole in the facade of inside the gallery, no?
Okay.
So in this kind of solution, we said, okay, we're not going to install any kind of implants, okay, any kind of mechanical solution, but we're going to use the existing windows. How? Well, first, perhaps we're going to delegate, and we have to have every each floor a person, okay, that is going to say, okay, in case of a fire, based on the fire safety like strategy, the window has to open. Or other option could be saying, okay, we don't want a person to open the window because a person perhaps in the fire floor maybe is not going to be able to open the window, no? So you're going to make it is automatic. How are you going to make it automatic? You keep the window as it is, and perhaps you just install like an additional small mechanical thing that is simply going to open and close this window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. From my point of view, I think fire safety engineering is necessarily needed recently because if I remember well, last year there was a huge fire in Hong Kong.
I think it was, yeah,
No, Hong Kong,
it was in
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong. Yeah, you're
Yes,
right.
Hong Kong, and it was a mess. It was a disaster, if I remember.
It is very similar to the second example that I have done officially worldwide using the FDS, which is the software that we use to simulate fires.
Mhm.
And it is very similar to what happened with the Grenfell Towers, they are saying, no? So I didn't actually dig at the moment into all the details. And of course, since it is a fire that affected like really a very wide area. It is really, 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 I would say, tricky to get into the proper details of everything. For sure, basing our our opinion, our educated opinion on this topic, and just basing our opinion on the videos that has been like surrounding the web nowadays. The thing is, yeah, the fire safety engineering actually is going to be able to simulate a fire, okay, and to prevent similar kind of like events. The problem in this case was related, of course, to the materials. Of course, you could see that there are a lot of like wooden materials in the surrounding, which is causing a very kind of big fire hazard. And at the same time, it is, I mean, the human aspect of the work because it was uh, most probably like an hazard caused
Human
by
activity.
human activity. It's something that when you simulate, you have to kind of like keeping into consideration, but it's never going to be like a zero chance risk, let's say, you know. So in this case, rather than a simulation, it's something that it has to be fixed like beforehand. In this case, in the cantiera itself.
That make me actually like curious to ask you a question. Have you have you have you ever like worked in a project where you needed to resimulate a real fire event, maybe even for the sake of enhancing the passive fire system?
Well, yes, absolutely. Usually, these kind of studies are kind of like, let's say, private. Not private in the sense of like, like they are surrounded by a lot of
No, we are not asking for
yeah,
names. We're just asking
yeah.
if you have done it or not.
Yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even recently, we had to reconstruct a fire scenario where like a person died, and so we had to try to check if the person who jumped off like a window from a very high level like a building, if this person could actually survive somehow, and which were the smoke condition and everything. So very similarly to what it has been done from the World Media Center simulation, okay, in 2001 by NIST. When you try to reconstruct this kind of like a phenomenon, and the thing
It's
that
a
you
World Trade Center, not World Media Center, I see.
World Trade Center,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
the
but
Twin Tower.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Miss Pal, yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Mm.
And very similarly, when we went to the NIST 1 year ago, because we went there to meet with the people working there, they were telling us that yeah, when you reconstruct this kind of phenomenon, you have to base your simulation on the effects that you're going to see about the fire. So perhaps in their case, it was they knew how the fire was propagating based on the breaking of the windows. So they knew that okay, at the beginning, of course, was the plane crash. The plane crash, it crashed. It created a hole. The hole created a lot of ventilation, and perhaps the collapse, in this case, they were saying that it was mainly related to the fire, which was like deforming the structure, the steel structure of the twin towers. And now, to not get into the details, like specifically, in our case, it was kind of similar. Of course, it was a much smaller case scenario. We had three windows, and we had the videos of the person alive trying to breathe from the one of these three windows, and the only thing that we could base ourselves was pictures from the before event, because we could find it on the agency who was renting the house, because it was a rented house. And we reconstructed all the geometry, so we could have like a very kind of precise idea on the combustible that was present in the house. Perhaps, of course, you can actually change the clothing, you can change the sofa, but overall the amount is going to be kind of similar. And then we had also the videos of the fire itself. So with the fire escaping from the windows, and we could actually kind of reconstruct without forcing like our hand, without actually like specific. We didn't have to specificate the fire beforehand, but we could try just to give a starting point to say, okay, let's check what it is going to happen in our mathematical model after we say the fire is going to propagate. How? Well, based on the temperature propagation of the all the material inside the building. And so yeah, we had has some kind of experience like this, which is as you said earlier at the beginning of this interview, something that I really love about his work is that it's not that I stopped like studying when I stopped like frequenting the civil engineering application in Politecnico Milan. It is, at least in my point of view, I mean, these kind of works are kind of work that are going to push you, to force you to keep studying, to keep searching, because it is as close as you can get to a research, kind of like a research and development of like these kind of tools. Because the further you go and the further they're going to provide the more information about fires, so you have to keep iterating your workflow with data that are keep like arriving. And yeah, so which is one of the main reasons why I had to kind of make a choice at the beginning and say, okay, I mean, it's not that I'm going to stop studying, I just have to focus on my topic, which is already a kind of like university by itself, let's say. And it is the reason why we had some success. And specifically, the good thing is that we got, I mean, I would really try to underline the fact that luck in these kind of cases is always a kind of big factor, in the sense that the market came into our way. We were already kind of simulating, and the thing is that yeah, the standards came into our way, the clients came to our way, and we, in the meanwhile, we were keep studying, researching, developing fires. And so nowadays, after like 10 years, the work is yeah working in a proper direction, let's say.
Oh, as I understood, like NIST is like the leading institute in this field. So, do you still use it as a as a reference to your work, or you have other alternatives?
Yeah, well, they are surely like one of the leading companies that is like actually, I would say that they are like a company, yeah, a governative company in
Okay.
America. Yeah, which is pushing out a lot of datas. And the good part is that since they are a public like company, they are providing a lot of like libraries with a lot of file informations, which are very very useful for this kind of purpose. So yeah.
And do you use it daily in your
Yeah,
work
yeah, we
for
use
your simulations?
yeah, we use them daily. Consider that the data information that we do have are coming from the NIST, as much as they are coming from the Lund and other kind of like
What is
European.
known?
It's another university that we have here in Europe. So in this case, it's a university. But the point is that
Swedish?
yeah, it's a
Swedish,
Swedish
yeah.
university. Yeah, and the thing is that you actually can find a lot of information about fire safety, and the further you go, and the further you're going to be able to dig into a lot of like these kind of researches that are going to be really, really, really like essential to our work because they are describing how every each kind of items is burning in these kind of scenarios.
Well, let me ask you some, like, now personal question about you. So let's go back before you started to work, and you, as we said, like you started to work when you were in high school. So how this could happen? Like, have you have you met any like person who motivated you to enter to this quite particular field, or you already like was interested from the beginning to be part of this engineering process? So please let us know how how what was your ideas before you started to work in fire safety engineering?
I would say that first of all, I have always been a very curious person. This is like not related to work, but in a very like general way. And I've been always like happy to try out new things. So since I was a kid, hopefully I got lucky that we actually my generation could grow with the technology. So we have been growing together, let's say, hand by hand since when I was yeah.
You're a millennium.
Huh?
You are from them, you are not Gen Z. You're
No, 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 Gen Z.
millennial.
Yeah, yeah. I've been born in the 1996.
Okay.
Um, and nothing. When I was younger, let's so early 2000, let's say, the computer started to be popular. Okay, the private houses, at least here in Italy. So I've been always trying to be, as I said earlier, like very curious. As here we say in Italian, I always been this kind of guy that they were called as smanettone, which as like this kind of word in Italy, it just means a person that is just trying to touch to do things. Okay. Okay, it doesn't matter if it is manual or not, because in this case we are talking about softwares. Okay,
Okay.
and then nothing. So when I first started studying, actually, this was my main driving factor in the sense that I wanted to learn more about softwares, hardware. So I started as like not it was not software engineering because it was still high school, but it was something similar. So like a programmer, software programmer. When I was 19 years old, I realized that I really loved. Okay, usually I try to do things that I love to do, so I don't like try to waste time things that I do not don't feel myself as like. I want to do things that I could be proud of. Okay, and so I actually realized that yeah, I was like actually I like to be a programmer and everything, but I wanted to feel more uh, no, it's saying useful could be seen as perhaps not the proper way to describe it, but I wanted to be able to use my software skills and to apply them in the real world in a more concrete way.
To see
So
them.
yeah,
To see them.
to see them. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's a perfect example. So when I first started, my main option could have been seen as civil engineering or architecture, which is not directly related to softwares for sure, but since the time is going on, you could actually use a lot of like these technologies to help with your studies and with your projects. So I always was kind of happy because it's not that I wasted time at the beginning when I first started as a programmer, but I could actually spend my mathematical skills, which were very very much required also in like in informatics and all the kind of cycles that and the scripts. and to use them like in this kind of new context. And I didn't have at the beginning, as you said, a kind of role model in the sense that, as I said, I just try to try out new things, and so I didn't have like at the beginning like a role model figures until I actually met two persons, which are like a wife and husband, and that have been like giving me a very kind of like a very big help because they were like the typical kind of persons, like entrepreneurs that would have this kind of like proper mindset, which doesn't mean specifically like they are. I mean, I would say that they are really, really smart. Okay, and the thing is, yeah, I got really much inspired by them simply because it was not a technical thing, or better say, it was also a technical thing, but mainly what I really liked about them was the way of dealing with problems, dealing with people, dealing with all the kind of like struggles that they're going to face daily. So in a daily basis, you're not going to face only like technical problems, no. And they had this kind of mindset that would like kept them of pushing and seeing always the not the happy side, but the it was like, yeah, the proper way of dealing with life overall. And so, yeah, they have been my first, I would say, role models, and that was the reason why
Was
I.
they part of a family?
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. But in
No,
this,
your family, I mean.
no, 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 no,
Ah, they are not parents for you.
no, no, no. They are not my parents, but I mean, they behave such as parents, but they are not.
Okay.
They were not, and
I mean, sorry, not I mean, I don't mean parents, I mean relatives.
yeah.
Because usually I confuse between parents and
No,
parenti in Italian.
no, 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 no. They were not relatives. They became as such when I was younger. And the thing is that we got much more like linked by each other when they first like knew me when I was like 16 or 17. They actually provided a lot of like um, point of
So
views for the future and a lot of support. And so that was the reason why when I first at the university, I was already working like for them for two different companies, two different engineering companies, and that was the reason why I first started. They
they were
provided,
working in the
yeah,
immersive engineering.
yeah, they provided a lot of support. They provided also a lot of like trust in the sense that even if I was young, I didn't have still the knowledge. They most probably understood that I really
Smart.
no, I wouldn't say about okay. I mean, smart. I think that it is a really bad kind of way of describing a person in the sense that how would you describe someone as smart? For instance, you could take a very poor guy in Africa, and you could say that he is not smart because he doesn't have any kind of knowledge, and he doesn't like do any kind of research. But perhaps I would say that it is kind of relative, okay, relative to the context. No, I think that the main topic at the beginning was just the kind of, yeah, they most probably saw that I really had a similar mindset to them. Of course, in their case, they were much wiser than me. Okay, so they actually were kind of like dealing with things in a most of the time in a better way, and they understood that most probably I could have like try to come like close to this kind of like to this kind of approach, and they realized that they wanted to follow them in this kind of path. So they gave a lot of trust, and that was the main reason why I've been able to grow my skills and my position in the companies.
And since you start working, you're still with them.
Yeah, yeah, it has been a decade, yeah, and I've been working for both of the companies since the beginning. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
Well, but have you ever got a doubt about your decision or your choice? So, in a certain moment, maybe you have thought about that. Okay, let's change this path. Let's go to another way.
Well, that's exactly what we were talking about before, in the sense that I do tend to think about work in a not really detached way from life, in the sense that if you are going to be able to deal with properly, to deal with problems in the work, and you have this kind of mindset, most probably, usually, you are going to be able very similarly in your private life. Okay. So for sure, there has been some up and downs, as you would recall for any kind of person, any kind of topics. Okay. But no, I would say that I've been very lucky to find something that I really love. I loved it for since the first day, and I've been like being able to grow and to have like a perception of this growth in the sense not economically or not the position itself, but at least the skills that I could they could be they could provide to the companies have been growing and they could actually feel it. Okay, so I've always been kind of happy about this kind of journey and nothing. Yeah, I would say that the more realistic way of describing this is that no, I have never felt like the need of changing my path. And specifically, I've been growing with my mom and my sister. My sister is younger than me, and she has always kind of complained about her work. So it is the most typical like person in the sense that she doesn't really enjoy what she does, but she does it because she needs it for like
for
for
living.
yeah for living. So I always try to push myself to find something that I really enjoy and to say, okay, as soon as I will find it, hopefully I found it very kind of easily. I was like, okay, I mean, and that's it. So I just have to go all in this, and perhaps let's see the outcome. I don't know it, but I mean, my goal usually is simply to try to push the boundaries and to find new ways. So yeah, I'm very happy about it.
You are like a team leader, and you are also quite young. So every day you're working with your colleagues or your team, and I guess you find a lot of challenges and difficulties. So my question is, from your point of view, how the teamwork could be very successful and productive at the same time?
Well, this is, I think, one of the most critical aspects of our work nowadays, because, as I said, we have been working since a decade in this kind of field. So we had a lot of like research, technically wise. Okay, if we're talking about scientifically, of course, we have a lot to still to learn, a lot of to research. But the thing is that the most critical part for our structure, our companies nowadays, is that as soon as you start to grow also and you start to have a lot of people, the needs of everyone has to be somewhat met. Okay. So dealing with peoples and all the like needs has been really something that has been kind of challenging. Okay. Which is something that I like because challenging things usually um, is seen as something that which is bad. Okay. In my case, I actually like challenging challenges. Okay. And I remember that when I was younger, okay, when I still I was not like in a leading position in our company, I always loved the concept. Like in Italy, you say tavola rotonda, like this table, no? So where you have a lot of people in it is a circle table, and no one is taking the lead, okay?
Okay.
But the problem is that as soon as you're going to grow, you're going to sooner or later going to realize that if everyone has a leading position, even if all of them have like a proper mindset and a proper idea, perhaps, okay, you need to have like
Someone to decide.
yeah, someone to decide because it's like a boat, no? It's not that everyone is going to say left, right, up, down, and then
Definitely.
the boat is not going to
Definitely.
go anywhere, even if all the ideas are going to be fine. And that's actually something that you have to realize, if you want to take a leading position, the fact that is that you have to find a proper way, a proper compromise between taking a strict position and making sure that people that are going to follow you are not going to are not going to feel as if they're going to be forced, but they're going to say, "Okay, I like this
Okay,
decision," and they're going to.
but the fact of we are all made of different soils, so makes us like really not very easy to deal with each other every day. I mean, we all had this kind of like trouble at work. Like we find a person or a colleague who is like really like with like as you say in Italian, like a square person. Like he's not very flexible or something like that. So how could you deal with the differences between people with a different background? Italy is a very rich country, like so you may need to deal with people from like different regions or even from other countries. Mm. How do you see
Well,
this?
I think that the real crucial point is that you don't fix people. You just have to say, okay, if they're not wise enough to realize that you have a common goal, okay.
You fire them.
No, well, I mean, of course, in the most extreme cases, of course, if there is no way of like being able to find like a constructive, okay, approach with them, okay, that's the extreme case. You have to fire them. But let's say that the common approach, okay, which most probably a lot of people are going to follow, is to yeah to find a compromise to say, okay, listen, even if this guy has a completely kind of mindset, which is my way of saying, okay, listen, I have an idea, I have a direction, okay? How can I make sure that this direction is not going to make you feel as if it is a completely different version of what you thought, okay? So that's the key word, compromise, like making sure that you're going to find. Of course, if you have like 1,000 people, 100 people, or in any case, even a small amount of group, is always kind of very hard to find a compromise that is going to be able to
Mhm.
satisfy everyone.
Mhm.
But at least, as I said, you just have to find a proper way. At least that's what I've been always trying to get. And this is, of course, a challenge to find a way to make sure that everyone at least is going to feel that you have a common goal. I think that this is the key point. If everyone is going to realize that you have the same common goal and you are not an enemy when you give like a direction, that's at least a starting point. It's not the end in the sense that it's not something that is already done, but it is a good, proper starting point because people at least are going to say, okay, he has a different idea from me, okay, but he has the same goal. So if I follow it, even if I would do it in another way, we're going anyway to get the same result that I want.
Mm.
Okay, that's I think the proper way to describe this. And yeah,
We almost arrived to the end, so before we end this conversation, so let's ask a very like tricky question. If you could like give your younger self like an advice to do the same or do a different decisions, or even like this advice is could work also for the younger generation who are like willing to enter to this career. What would you say?
yeah, sure. So the thing is, I remember very clearly one interview that I've seen 2 years ago, more or less. I don't remember specifically who were the people talking, but there was like a very wise old man, which was a very like experienced rich person, most probably in America, as usual.
A
Okay.
wise man said once.
Okay.
Okay.
And they were asking if we could like actually invest into finding a proper way to make people live longer, if we would have done it, perhaps like living 150 years, 200 years, or even more. Okay. And he was saying that most probably, if you are wise, smart enough, you're not going to want to do this in the
The
sense that
choose, yeah.
yeah, because overall you're going to slow down like the kind of like humanity like development. In which sense it was saying that, of course, if you're going to become older, the older you get, the more stuck you're going to get with your own mindset, your own ideas, which is not a bad thing because, of course, you're going to you spend your whole life researching, studying, and you're going to get to a point where you're going to say, okay, that's the way, that's what I know, that's my truth. Okay. And everyone like in the whole history has been thinking the same, in the sense that they have to make a kind of journey, which at the end is going to say, okay, what did they learn? What did they learn? And what you've learned is like this, is like a constant thing, okay? And then the problem is just related to the fact, as you just said, that the younger generation usually has to be able to find a way of saying, okay, someone already invented
The bicycle.
the bicycle, for instance. I'm going to use it, okay? I'm going to use it and I'm going to be better than them, but not to show that I'm better than them, but simply because this is like the advancement in the humanity and in any case or in any
Yes.
in any field, okay? So if I would have to provide like a kind of advice, a general advice, which is not a very specific one, would be yeah, to not be scared to say, okay, let's try new things, okay? Of course, I'm not saying to destroy what has been already built, But to say, for instance, nowadays a lot of people are talking about AIs. Okay, AIs, of course, if they are used in a improper way, could be seen as a kind of not very very wise tool. Okay, it really depends because it's a very tricky and a large topic, but perhaps it is going to be able to provide a very, if it is used as a helpful assistance, then yeah, this is like, for instance, one of the tools that is going to be able to provide to the younger generation a way of saying, okay, a lot of people have been already like dealing with problems in this field in the past, in the last centuries. How can I be able to provide a new mindset? AI by itself nowadays is not going to be able to do it at the moment. Let's say, but perhaps that's the main advice to not be scared to try new things and to find, like as we said earlier, a compromise between saying, okay, I'm not here to destroy what has been built. I'm here to just find a new way of using what has been built to find like a kind of like advancement.
Okay. Yes, that's very beautiful. And what would you change in your life
What
if you are able to,
What I
and
would
we
ch
are not?
what I would change, I mean, as I said earlier, I've been kind of lucky to pick something that I really do love,
Come on,
working-wise.
but of course there are some negative issues about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure. But the point is that everyone, I would say, that is going to find, like as I said, up and downs in their life. I mean, if I would give an advice to my younger self, would be for sure to not being stuck to specific goals, and to perhaps just overall dealing with things. Sometimes you have to find, as we said, you have to simply try to become wise enough to realize that not always you're going to be able to get exactly what you want, but this doesn't mean that you are not going to get what you deserve or what you actually you're going to be able to enjoy. So just to be able to be happy with what you're going to get, and just try hard. But try harding was not, I think, something that would change, because I was always trying to kind of, as I said earlier, to try to push boundaries. Simply to be able to realize that not always you're going to get exactly what you want, but this doesn't mean that you're not going to get what you deserve.
Okay, Armando Voda, we are very happy that we made this conversation with you, and we appreciate that you shared your ideas with us, and we hope that these ideas could be useful for people who are like interested to join the Fire Safety Engineering. And we hope to make this conversation with you again after some years, so to discuss the future success of Lee. Um, and this was our conversation for today. We would love to thank you again, and maybe see you soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
النهارده دي كانت حلقتنا مع أرماندو فودا. نتمنى إن انتوا تكونوا فعلا استفدتوا من الحلقة، ونشوفكم على خير مع سير ذاتية جديدة في حلقات قادمة إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.